The amendments, the motion is agreed to.
Student Loan Scheme Amendment Bill, third reading.
I therefore call on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Appropriation 2010-11 Financial Review Bill, committee stage.
I declare the House in committee for consideration of the Appropriation 2010-2011 Financial Review Bill. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Speaker. Members, the House and Committee on the Appropriation 2010-11 Financial Review Bill. The Financial Review debate is a committee stage of the Appropriation Financial Review Bill. The time allocated for this debate is 4 hours and comprises 2 distinct elements. The first is the debate on the annual financial statements of the government as reported on by the Finance and Expenditure Committee. Once this is concluded, the committee debates individual financial reviews of departments, offices of Parliament and non-departmental appropriations as reported on by the select committees. The debate on the government's financial position may be a fairly wide-ranging one, but the debates on the individual financial reviews of the departments, offices of Parliament and non-departmental appropriations should be relevant to their performance in the 2010-11 financial year and their current operations. The compendium of financial reviews and non-department appropriations available for debate is on the table. A member may have no more than 2 calls on each financial review. At the conclusion of the debate, a single question is put on the provisions of the bill. There is no amendment or debate on the question. The chairperson then reports the bill to the House and it is set down for third reading forthwith. There is no debate on the third reading. Will members please turn to the report of the Finance and Expenditure Committee on the annual financial statements of the government. The question is that the report of the Finance and Expenditure Committee on the annual financial statements of the government for the year ended 30th of June 2011 be noted. I note that this report also relates to the Finance and Expenditure Committee's financial review of the Treasury, and so the performance in the 2010-11 financial year and current operations of the Treasury may also be debated.
Thank you.
The Honourable David Parker.
It's the first 10-minute call I've heard from the Chair for a while. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I take a call referring to page 376 of the reports of select committees on financial reviews, which does deal with the Treasury, and I'm interested to hear from the Minister of Finance as to what is his latest excuse for the continual slide or lacklustre performance of the New Zealand economy. Indeed, as the Finance and Expenditure Committee report says on the second page of its report, in the year that we're talking about, the fiscal year ended 30 June 2011, New Zealand's operating deficit before gains and losses increased by $12.1 billion, from $12.1 billion in 10-11 to $18.4 billion in the year ended 30 June 2011. It's no coincidence that during that year we also saw the National Party abandoning their promises that they had taken to the electorate in 2008 when they were at that stage talking about closing the wage gap with Australia, which was one of their promises, which they seem to have given up on. They were promising a step change in the economy. That has also disappeared from their language because, of course, every reference we hear to forecasts is that they go backwards rather than forwards, and it seems to the Labour Party opposition that it's now abundantly clear that the the management of the economy by the national-led government is not all that they crack themselves up to be. We've had, and I note, Mr Chairman, that we can refer also to current events in this part of the debate. We heard from the Treasury recently that the tax revenue is nearly $1 billion below forecast for this year as well. This year they say that it's because GST was down 4%, largely because of earthquake-related GST refunds. Corporate tax was down 5%, and the weak job market pushed direct source tax revenue, that's PAYE and the like, down 3%. So we've got $1 billion forecast hole, worse than it was just prior to the election and the pre-election fiscal update just in the months since the election. So, Mr Chairman, I think it's time for the Minister to say why, on the basis of that, he's ignoring the advice of his own department, who've got some ideas as to how we might turn that around to improve the future of New Zealand by addressing some of the long-term problems. And the briefing to incoming Minister supported quite a few of the policies that the Labour Party took the last election, but that the National Party still won't embrace, including, Mr Chairman, the need to have a neutral tax signal into the economy so that people are investing for the basis of the profitability of their investment and the success of the business, which will grow our exports better than our current business model, which is predicated too much in the speculative sector, driven in part by the tax advantages that that sector has compared with other sectors of the economy. Another recommendation, we've got the government saying that they're going to get these budget things under control in part through welfare reform, and yet they're refusing to deal with the issue of the age of eligibility of superannuation. And I would ask the Minister to concede that in the latest forecasts, within 4 years, we're spending more on superannuation than we spend in the total of vote education. The total of vote education, that's preschool, primary, secondary, tertiary and trade training, and yet the Minister says there's no need to change any of that. They pretend that they're tinkering with domestic purposes benefit and the unemployment benefit will do the trick, yet within 4 years their own forecasts say that they're spending more on superannuation than the unemployment benefit. In fact, 20 times the amount approximately is spent on that day. This government won't pull some of the levers that are open to it to improve the economy. We have not rebalanced the economy. The Treasury's own forecasts show that within the forecast period, the current account deficit gets worse. Every year we have a current account deficit. The difference between the cost of our imports and our interest bill and the value of our exports is bridged by more borrowing from overseas, and every year the forecast has it getting worse from here, so that according to the Treasury, by 2016 it's equal to 6.9% of our GDP, our current account deficit, and between now and then New Zealand will have borrowed an extra $50 billion from overseas. And that's New Zealand, $50 billion extra from overseas, and in addition to that we'll have sold some of our assets into...
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr Speaker, if you look at the recent report